Well, good morning, LifeBridge Church. David Tonen here. Sunday, March the 22nd, 2020. It is a different sort of Sunday, isn't it? It's a different sort of world we're living in currently. Just wanted to let you know that we're going to try to do something really unique that we've never done before here at LifeBridge, and that is do a completely and total online service because of all the weird things and strange changes that have transpired and happened in the course of the last week. A week ago Sunday was our last in-person church service, and when we left, the church literally left the building. And now here we are, scattered across the city. There's probably even going to be a few tune-ins from around the world if Gordon and Anna click in, or Lindsay. And we're just going to try something completely different, like every other church in the city, trying to utilize the uniqueness of technology to deliver and connect with, as a church, a Sunday morning service. And fortunately or unfortunately, I'm the one who gets to be the guinea pig this morning and to try to figure out a way to utilize technology and speak to all of you and encourage you in some way, shape, or form. That special music, of course, was my sweet and wonderful wife, Shelley. When I got married, I had no idea that I had married an angel. But then a few years ago, she started playing the harp, and that is the first time that anyone outside of immediate family has had the opportunity to see and hear her play. So I hope that was a blessing to you. I know it is to me. I really appreciate how far she's come in the last few years as she's taken up playing the harp. She said she would one day play as a sort of a pre-service music. Well, this is that day, and so I'm glad that you were tuned in to have the opportunity to experience that. This morning I'm going to do my very best to utilize some notes that I've put together and figure out a way to just tell you a few stories and try to be as practical as I can be. We've been doing a series in our church on the 7 churches of Revelation, and so I get to do the 6th church. I actually picked this. Steve asked me probably like before Christmas even, or it might have been early January, if I would speak on one of the 7 churches. So I actually chose church number 6, the Church of Philadelphia. And so I'll do my best to do that. I just wanted to address the fact that we're all living in this unique sort of world nowadays. This last week really has been totally unique. It has been a total change in everything for all of us. For some of us not doing our jobs at all, some of us being laid off, and some of us trying to work our jobs in different ways from home or from telecommuting. And so I just want to acknowledge for you that we know as a church that you're facing uncertain times, that you're facing times which are filled with a little bit more anxiety, a little bit more stress than normal. And so what I'm going to try to do this morning is try to keep that in mind and not make this overly theological. I mean, the book of Revelation obviously is a very potentially heavy book, but there's some really practical things that we can learn, and I think there's some really relevant things specifically for the season that we're in our culture, and with everything that's just transpired in the last week alone. I think that there's some lessons that we can learn, and that God's been kind of speaking into my own life in the last number of weeks as I've prepared this message. And so let's see if we can use some of the learning that I've been receiving, and maybe I can share some of that with you. Let's start with, it's Revelation chapter 3, verse 7. And it starts out that this is written to the angel of the church in Philadelphia. And these are the words of Jesus. And for each of the churches, there has been a message. And there's all kinds of different interpretations of when each church's introduction begins. It always says, to the angel of the church. And so the angel of the church could be a spiritual angel, as Steve referred to last week. It could be the pastor or lead spiritual leader in the church. We're not 100% sure, but this is to the Church of Philadelphia. And when I say Philadelphia, I don't mean Philadelphia in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, this is Philadelphia, which was a city in ancient times in the area that is now Turkey. And I won't get into all the geography of it, but there was a very effective church there. There was a very excited and growing church, but they were a small church, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. But the word Philadelphia, or the name Philadelphia, means brotherly love. And I think that this church exuded that whole concept of brotherly love, and they were very, it was a church that was in an area that was very fertile and grew a lot of grapes, and was filled with hospitality. And the name of the city came to be because of two brothers that had a great deal of family love for each other and care for each other. And I think for us as a church, this is a season where we can even be thinking about how can we be more loving to our human brothers and sisters, but also to our spiritual brothers and sisters, which are the church, and even our brothers and sisters that are our neighbors or family or friends that are not actually Christians right now. Revelation 3 goes on in verse 7 to say, "These are the words of him who is holy and true, who holds the key of David." So these are in each introduction or each letter to one of the churches. There's a piece in it where there begins the writer, Jesus, identifies who he is and identifies his authority to write to this church, to say the things that he's actually saying. And so it starts out in this letter, "These are the words of him who is holy and true," identifying that Jesus is holy and true, that Jesus is the one who holds the key of David. This would be symbolically and intellectually something they could relate to, because it refers back to a section of the Old Testament in Isaiah 22, where it talks about the key of David. And so the one who holds the key of David is the one who holds the keys to the kingdom. Here it opens up really with the message here. Let's see if I can even utilize this. Start up here in this section here. And it talks about that the messenger is Jesus, and he is the one who is holy, which means he is perfectly righteous to deliver this message. He is genuine and he is true. And so what I want to just get across here is that Jesus has the authority to speak into this church, and as a result, the words that he's using and the words that are part of this letter are very important. And because he's the one who is holy, because he's perfectly righteous and genuine and true, that they need to listen and heed the message that is being delivered in this letter. And we, as people who are, centuries later, reading it and trying to apply it in our own context, we have to realize that we need to pay attention to this message as well, because it's just as relevant for us today as it was for the church back then. So the whole idea is pay attention. What is about to come, what he's about to say, is very important. Oh my, technology. So then it goes on and says that what he opens, no one can shut. So he has the keys. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. And so what this is essentially referring to is that because he has all the authority, because he is the one who was the creator, and he has the key to all the resources, he's the one alone who makes the decision about what gets opened and what gets shut, what opportunity is allowed and what opportunity is not allowed. And so it really is an interesting image here of basically the keys to the kingdom that he has, that really are the keys to all the resources of heaven. And because he has access to all the resources of heaven, he has all the access to the authority to make decisions, that basically he is the one that will, whatever he decides, essentially, is what will be. Jesus, going back to being the key of David, really, again, talks about how sovereign he is, that he has all that authority, that he has all the access to the resources of the kingdom of heaven. And so it's kind of like, we in our culture we talk about, someone who is special or honored having the keys to the city, or the key to the city. Or if you were to come to my house and visit me, or if I was to be away and I was to give you the key to my house, then you would have access to everything that is in my home. Well, he has the key of David. The city of David is symbolic of heaven. And so ultimately he has the key to heaven. He has the key to all the resources. And so he is the one who is the decision maker. And if he opens up the door, having the right key really makes all the difference, right? And so it's talking about having a key to open a door. And that door ultimately is a spiritual door and a door that is of physical application. So really, the first door that Jesus opens is a personal door, a personal spiritual door for you and for me to be walking into relationship with him. He's the one who basically paid the price of all the sin that I've done, all the sin that you've done, anything that we've done that has been not holy and true as he is. He has paid the price for that. And he did that to unlock the key, or to create that bridge for us from sinfulness to forgiveness, and to reconnected relationship with him who is the one who is holy and true. And so the idea here is that you have an open door, I have an open door, and anyone who would receive it has the open door to relationship with him. And when we come into relationship with him, this opens a door of unique and renewed purpose. Like, I find that after I got to the point where I said to myself, okay, I can't run my life anymore, so Jesus, I want you to be the ruler of my life. I want you to be the one who I'm in relationship with, and that it's not a religious thing, that it's a relational thing, and I'm going to basically hand over the purpose of my life into your hands so that you can give me purpose, because I'm too tired of trying to do life on my own and just messing it all up, And once I got to that place, my whole life took on a whole new purpose. The things that had been important to me in the past were no longer important. The cares I had, or the way I reacted in situations in the past, were no longer the way I acted or reacted in the future. And, even this past week, I shared a little blurb, a 5-minute video reflection on Facebook on Friday. And, how I acted and reacted, and how I released the anxiety that I had going on in my life this past week from a business perspective. I would never have done that with the same purposefulness as if I didn't have that relationship with God, I guess is what I'm saying. And so my relationship with him has given me a whole new purpose. And I think many of you could say that you've experienced the same thing. And if you don't know who Jesus is, and you haven't released your life into his control, and you haven't made him the Lord and leader of your life, then the purpose for your life isn't fully complete. He wants to unlock that door relationally, and he wants to unlock that door for you purposefully for your life, so that you have a renewed mission and vision and hope and purpose, so that you're not just living life for yourself. And right now, in what we're going through these last couple of weeks, I think there's a lot of people that are really sitting back and wrestling and struggling with, what really is the purpose of my life if my job is gone, if I'm under, this self-quarantine in my home, or whatever issue you're struggling with. Life has changed, right? It's not the same as it was a couple weeks ago. But if we have a strong relationship with God, then we see a different purpose, even if we are living in a season that has, a little bit more anxiety and uncertainty in it than what it did a few weeks ago. In Revelation 3:8, the next verse, Jesus says, I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. So again, he's talking about, he knows our deeds. He knows the deeds of that church. He knows the deeds that you've done. He knows the good things you've done and the bad things you've done. He knows the good things that I've done and the bad things I've done. The opportunities that I have taken advantage of, and the ones that I've totally dropped the ball on. but he's placing open doors of opportunity in front of me and in front of you every day. And these doors that are being opened by Jesus are ones that give us unique opportunities as individuals. So there's opportunities that Jesus opens because of my relationship with him and because of that renewed purpose. I personally have opportunities to speak into people's lives and to reflect the relationship or represent my relationship with him to others. And that's particularly important right now in this season of uncertainty. If people can see the peace that I have in my life, if people can see the peace that you have in your life, then it is a reflection of what that powerful relationship is. And as a result, we have open doors. We probably have more opportunities as individuals and as a church. And the church really, some of our opportunities we try to, over the last few years, we've been trying to see how we can work as life groups, as groups of people with different sets of personalities and skills and gifts and talents, that we can come together in groups of 6, 7, 8, 9 and do ministry and do life together and utilize those gifts and passions and the wisdom that we have as a collective to go out and love people together, so that it's not all on me all the time. It's not on you all the time to be God's representative all by yourself. But if you're in a life group here at LifeBridge, this gives you an opportunity to not only be a part of a group of people who are trying to, care for each other and support each other, but also to be on mission together and to go out and be loving their neighbors and loving friends and loving people who don't know who Jesus is, but doing it together as a team. And that's really, instead of it being individualistic, it's very much the church in smaller groups as opposed to the bigger church in groups of 10s, 20s, 30s or more. And so this season we're in right now gives us a whole bunch of opportunities. And I just would like to encourage you, let's seize these opportunities. Let's seize these opportunities to love people in ways that we might not have even thought to do or might have not have had the open door a couple weeks ago. I've heard some amazingly cool stories, even just this past week, of people in our church who are putting notes in mailboxes around their community to let their neighbors know that if they need food or they need medication or they need assistance in any way, all they have to do is call, and this particular couple would be more than happy to reach out and run some errands for them. I know of people that have gotten together and taken people along for a walk on a beach or out in a park or picking up the phone and making phone calls or sending text messages or just looking for opportunities of ways that they can, really be uniquely and genuinely ones who love, who can demonstrate that brotherly love. And like I said, I want to encourage you. I've heard a lot of positive stories this past week. I know Steve has as well. And so keep it up. Keep looking around your neighborhood. Keep looking around your sphere of influence and see if there's ways that even we as Christians who are in life groups here at LifeBridge, I know, for example, my group, we're going to try to do our group via a project. Like there's a piece of software called Zoom. We're going to do our life group this Tuesday night on Zoom. It's not going to be the same as being face-to-face as far as in person, but we can still use video technology, kind of like we're using this stuff right now, to be face-to-face in times where we can't literally reach out and give each other a hug because it's just not appropriate or effective to do that right now. But we can still speak into each other's lives and be that smiling face and be that encouraging voice in times of uncertainty. And so I encourage you to do that. If you're not part of a life group right now, I would even encourage you to see if you could reach out to someone. Reach out to Steve or myself, and maybe we can plug you into some of the video groups that are going to be going on for the next few weeks. It'd be an opportunity for you to just see how you can be part of a group of people that are just trying to love each other and live life together. And even if we're doing it through video, it's better than sitting home and being alone. let's go on to Revelation chapter 3, verse 8. Jesus says to this church in Philadelphia, I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. So as I kind of researched this, they were a smaller church. And, what's interesting is when you're a church, the church is not, as we've discovered, the building. The church is not necessarily just Lifebridge Church of, 70, 80, 90 people. The church is not just churches together in Dartmouth or across Nova Scotia. The church is global. But the Church of Philadelphia was a small church. And so it doesn't matter whether you're a small church, because small church is not necessarily the best. Big church, like if there was a church in the city, there's several churches in the city with hundreds of people that attend it. Having a bigger church is not necessarily what's most important. What's most important is being effective, or being, just being a church that's healthy, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Whether you're small or whether you're big, whether your life group is big or your life group is small, whether, regardless of what it is, it's about being healthy. And in this case, this church in Philadelphia was very healthy. And I want to commend Lifebridge. I think, after everything we've been through the last few years, I think we're in a fairly healthy place right now. We're in a very unified place right now. And we're in a place where I see people in conversations I've been having, I see people growing in the depth of their spiritual relationship. So I want to commend you. We, Lifebridge, might be a small church, and we may appear to have little strength, but we are just being encouraged by God to keep. It says here, you have kept my word. So we want to be a church that keeps his word. We want to be a church that doesn't deny his name. We want to give him credit when we see him doing amazing things in us and through us. And I think, again, this is a season where we have the opportunity to step a little outside of maybe our comfort zone and speak of where our peace is coming from. Speak about where, some of the, when we're doing these random acts of kindness and brotherly love, that we tell people why we're doing it. It's because we care for them, but we're also doing it because we feel compelled to represent God's love to them in this season, where they're filled with anxiety, or where they're filled with fear, or where they're not able to go out and run errands, and we can just do stuff for them. And so the goal here is, we as individuals and as the church, we might feel like we don't have a lot of strength, but our strength and our power really comes from that relationship with God. Jesus gives us the strength. When he opens the door and he calls us to do something, he'll give us the strength and the resources, the capacity and the opportunity to do it, and do it successfully. And so even though you feel like you have little strength, just keep his word. Spend time in the Bible. Spend time reading the principles that Jesus wants us to live by. And if we keep them and we don't deny them, we're going to grow deeper and deeper in our relationship with him, and in our passion and our love for him. And we're going to accomplish things with his strength, and then we're going to be able to give him the credit for it. Well, I guess I sort of did that. I skipped ahead to this slide. We're essentially powerless without God. Jesus is the source of our strength, and at the end, we really want to make sure that we give him the honor and glory. When we see results, the results are his results. The results aren't because I'm so strong or I'm so good. The results aren't because you're so smart or you're so wise or you've been given a whole lot of gifts and talents in a different area to love someone. Ultimately, any results that are spiritual, any results that are kingdom related are his. And really, it comes back to the center of all of this being the Word, or the Bible, the principles, the teaching, the life resource that the Bible is for us. Every issue and every problem, every fear we have, every struggle that we're having inside our lives through our sins or through our shortcomings, the solution to it, the answer to our problems, is all in the Bible. It guides us, and if we read it, if we spend time in it, if we spend time like digging deep and praying through some of the principles that God is teaching us, and getting to really embed that in and ripping apart some of the mess that's in our lives and replacing it with the healthy holiness of restoration and rejuvenation that the Word of God and a relationship with Jesus gives us, then we can live it out, and we can really start to see how it's making a difference. I want to show you this book. I referenced it a couple weeks ago when I was speaking at LifeBridge, but in January, at Christmas time, I kind of felt led by God that He wanted me to start journaling. And so I'm not a journaler. I'm not a person who likes to diary his life or experiences. And I've tried stuff like that. I've tried it in the past and it never really worked. But in January, I started doing that in this book. And what I started doing is not diarying. Is that a word, diarying? Or doing a chronological accounting of my daily life. But what I started doing is I started to write down things as I was praying them. So I started to write down prayers. I started to, as I would read the Bible in the morning, if there was one verse or a couple verses that would jump out at me, I'd start writing them down. And here's what I've discovered. This is what's been so amazing and awesome and cool about the whole thing, is as I go back, I can now start looking at things that I prayed weeks ago, and then I can start seeing that God actually answered those prayers. And so why this is so encouraging is I think you would have experienced this, and I've experienced this many times in my life before, is that I pray for things, I pray for people, I pray for circumstances or situations, and then I forget about it. Unless it's really personally important to me. If I pray for you, I might forget that I prayed for you or what I prayed for you. But when I've written them down, and then I go back and I look at them a few weeks later or a month later, and I look and I review the things I prayed about, what's really exciting is I'm starting to see, oh, God answered this prayer. Oh, God is in the midst of answering this prayer. Or I might have written down a Bible verse that really suddenly jumps out at me, and I realize, oh, this actually makes a whole lot more sense to me now because of some experiences I've had in the last few weeks. And so I guess I just want to encourage you to utilize the time that you have right now. You're home more than you've been in a long, long time. You have a few less responsibilities than you've had in a long, long time. And so maybe this is your opportunity to spend a little bit more time reading the Bible, spending a little bit more time praying specific prayers. And if you write them down, if you start kind of keeping an account of these things, I think it would be a really, really important and exciting revelation to you as well to see how God is actually working it through for you. And then he ends there's more to this particular chapter, but at the end he just, with all of these letters, Jesus says, if you have ears, listen. If you have ears, pay attention. So it starts with the person who's telling you to pay attention, or the person who's writing to you, is Jesus, and he has the authority to say the things he's saying. And then at the end of it, he says, if you have ears, listen. So pay attention at the beginning, pay attention at the end, and the paying attention at the end is really make sure you get out and start doing what you're being called to do. And basically, the latter part of this letter just talks about if you're a church that is seizing the open doors, and if you're a church where God's word and his holiness is at the center of your church, of you as an individual, at the core of your life, and you're embedding it and you're living it, and it's becoming personal in your marriage and in your family and in your work and in your life as a whole, and if the Bible and the spiritual principles are really guiding you, then really hold fast to that, it says. And if you hold fast, then you will become a pillar of spirituality in your household. You will become a pillar of spirituality in your community, in your church, in your workplace. And ultimately, God is going to honor each and every one of us if we grow and dig deeper into the depths of our relationship with him, we get the honor of spending eternity with him in heaven. So this season we're in right now is just a short season. This season of trouble is like nothing else that has been experienced in our lifetime. But the reality is this too will pass. This is just a season. And ultimately, the earth, our homes that we have here in Nova Scotia, this is really not our home. Our real home and the intention of our home to be is in heaven with God. And so live life to the full spiritually now. Grow in that depth so that you can represent God here on earth, but then that you get to have the absolute amazing joy of spending life with God in heaven. And so I just kind of want to wrap this up with this application. Right now, you have time that you haven't had before. So seize the opportunity of this time to go through that open door and go deeper in relationship with God. Build relationship with him. Deal with some of your fears, your anxieties, your sin, your shortcomings. Let the Bible permeate the core of your soul and start changing you. And then in that process, ask God to give you purpose. And if you have things that you're coming upon as you're kind of doing your studies, or as you're reading something in the Bible, even if you were to just read a couple verses a day while you're off, and then just reflect on those things and ask God to reveal to you, what does this mean specifically for me? And if you're struggling with it still and you're not sure, Steve's happy to have a conversation with you. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Anyone in your life group would be happy to have a conversation with you, or anyone in the church if you're not part of a life group. Just reach out to somebody and say, I'm really struggling in this area, and I'm reading these verses, and I'm really struggling with it, and I don't know how they apply to me. If you were to reach out, there's lots of us that would love to use a video chat or a phone call, or maybe even still in small groups have people into your home if it's appropriate, and just talk some of these things through. I mean, what we want to do is we want to use this opportunity to grow deeper, ask for purpose, and ultimately represent God well to those around us. I just really hope that in some way that something I've said this morning has been a little bit of encouragement to you. We're in a very bizarre time, but this much I know, that no matter what we're going through, God has a plan, and he's got it all under control. And I've seen that already starting to happen with relation to my own job, my own company. I've seen it in the church. I've seen it through conversations that I've had with people just even in the last week, how I see God using this time to draw us closer to him, to help us realize what's really important. And so I guess all I'm asking you is just take some time to really build into your relationship with him. Once we get through this season, life is going to go to some semblance of normal. We're going to be thrown back into work and all kinds of community activities and events and entertainment, and all these things are all going to come back. And they provide a big distraction. Right now, if we would quiet ourselves a little bit, I really believe we can have opportunity to quiet away all the distractions of life and focus in on what's really important. And I really want that for myself, but I really want that for you too. I would love to hear stories of people's lives being changed and transformed because they use this season of time wisely. They use this season of time to love God, to love others, and that as a result, our church as individuals gets transformed, our church as a group gets transformed, and ultimately we're having impact in our community because our community is being transformed. And so share your stories with somebody, and if you need any help at all, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to be a church of brotherly love, to love brothers and sisters, to represent God well. And so I hope that in some way you would be encouraged to do that as of today. May God bless you, and we'll try to do this again next week, and Steve will be the one that will wrestle with the technology and try to make it work so that we can continue to do church online and establish some sense of church community in the midst of these uncertain times. Have a great day, and let's just pray a blessing on you. Jesus, I just ask that everyone who's made it this far, that is listening, that you would pour your blessing on them, that you would use that key of the kingdom to open opportunities for the relationship, for them to have a deeper relationship with you. Open the doors of opportunity so they can represent you in unique ways in this unique time. Give them braveness, boldness, and anointing so they can be a light in the darkness in this time, and that they can see you working in their lives and see you working through them in their community so that they can have big impact through the doors that you're going to open for them. We ask this together as brothers and sisters in Christ. We ask this because you are the King of Kings and Lord of Lords in our lives, and we just ask that you would continue to develop us into the creation that you intended us to be. Have a great day, everyone. May God bless you.